What is up, Internet? This is JD coming at you with Redskins Rant, Hell to the Redskins. Coming at you with another video basically about free agency and a little bit about trades and about talking about the draft too. First off, I want to thank everyone who saw my last video. It's gotten a lot of pace, it's gotten a lot of momentum. This is the video, that video's had more views than any other video I've ever posted. I have 4 different YouTube channels. And now it has more than any other video I've ever posted. The one it surpassed, I posted 2 years ago, which honestly started this whole thing. It started this whole channel because I was upset about, us losing to the Giants and not making the playoffs. Not this season, but last season. So it's called Disgruntled Redskin Fan Number 1. That's what started it. It has over 670 views, and I'm almost at 700 views on my last video. So I really appreciate everyone watching it. And, I do this because it does help me get some of my stuff out of my mind and kind of, not on paper, but, out there. And everyone watching it kind of just makes me, more encouraged to do more of this stuff. So I really appreciate that. So on topic today, I want to talk about some things I think the Redskins need to do. I was just eating lunch and I was looking at the Redskins salary cap issue. If I sound weird, I've had the flu for last week and bronchitis, so I've kind of lost my voice. But, I'm feeling a little better now. So onward, upward. That's what they say. What was I saying? So I was doing a little bit of research while I was eating lunch, and I realized that the Redskins have $48 million in salary cap space. Now, I don't think that is including the money for Alex Smith. I'm not sure if that includes him or not. So I'm going to assume that's not included. Now I don't know how that's like done, how it's like, if it's like backloaded or whatever. I thought this year he got a $17 million. And then he gets the rest of it backloaded a couple years down the road. So that's the way I'm thinking. So it looks like we have about $31 million in salary cap space. So I'm using that to figure out what the Redskins are going to, like what we can spend in free agency and what we can use to fill some of our holes. First thing we need to do, and this is my opinion, and I love the guy. He was one of my favorite players for a while, but he just can't stay healthy. We need to trade Jordan Reed. And Emmanuel Sanders looking to get out of Denver, and I think we can do a straight-up trade. Jordan Reed for Emmanuel Sanders, done. They make about the same amount a year, okay? I think Emmanuel Sanders this year may make like $2 million more, so it's a $2 million hit, and we're getting a deep threat. A guy can catch the ball. He's a good receiver. He's not big, which is what our issue is right now. We don't have any big receivers. But if we do our scheme properly, we can kind of counter that, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So, really, if we do that, it's a difference of $2 million on salary cap. So now we're down to $29 million, okay? The next thing I think we need to do is, once we trade Jordan Reed, I think we need to go get Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham made about $8 million last year. I think we can get him in free agency by giving him $10 million a year. Getting him $10 million should be enough to get him to sign with us. And that leaves it with Jimmy Graham, and Vernon Davis at tight end. We still have Jeremy Sprinkle and Niles Paul, okay? Honestly, if they just want to roll the dice and go with Jeremy Sprinkle, I'm cool with that. I've seen his tape from him. I think it was at Nebraska or Wisconsin, one of the two. Whichever one it was. He's not bad. He was just a rookie last year, and, he's playing behind an all-pro in Jordan Reed and the phenom that is Vernon Davis. So, that's just an option that he had, I guess. So, I would be okay going and getting Jimmy Graham, spending the money on Jimmy Graham. However, if we don't have the money for Jimmy Graham, we don't want to spend the money on Jimmy Graham, I'm okay with that. I just think we need to get rid of Jordan Reed. He's not reliable, and it really messes with your scheme when you plan all week to have somebody, and then you all of a sudden don't, or vice versa. You plan to not have somebody, then all of a sudden he's in the game plan. It just messes with your team. Okay? So that's the first thing the first 2 things I think we need to do. Jimmy Graham is pretty healthy and consistent compared to Jordan Reed. So that's why I think we should go get him. So that's the first thing. Second thing we need to do is in free agency we need to I'm just making sure the sun doesn't block the camera. Okay. We need to make sure we go get we need to re-sign Zach Brown. Okay? I don't know what the going rate is for tight ends. 12 to 13 million. Sounds good to me. Okay, we have 29 million salary cap space. So 13 million of that sounds good to me to pay him and get him signed and we give him that. We can front load it or back load it, so we have a little bit more salary cap to work with this year. But re-sign Zach Brown. Give him like 3 or 4 years. $13 million a year. I'll go as high as 15 just to get him. He's a good enough player. Give him like $13 or $15 million a year. And I think that'll be pretty okay with us. I'm okay with that. Give him $13 or $14 million a year. 12 would be what I'm comfortable with, but we need to re-sign Zach Brown. He was that good for us. He's a solid player. And just to be quite frank, we need solid players on our team. We need consistency, and we need to have guys being consistent, and he's a consistent player. Okay? So sign him. So now, let's say we take the high end of that. So now we're down to $14 million. This is what I think we need to do next. I think we need to get Nate Solters. He's a free agent. He's an offensive tackle from the New England Patriots. Okay? I think snagging him, giving him a little bit more, like he only made like $6 million last year. Give him 8. Okay? That'll get him. Let's get him for a couple years. He's solid. He'll get the job done. Okay? And so that'll shore up our offensive line. Well, not totally shore it up, and I'll get to that here in a minute. Okay? But I'll shore up the other tackle. Okay? And that'll replace Morgan Moses, and we can either cut him or make him a backup. Okay? Really have no other plans for free agency when it comes to money, unless you want to spend the rest of that money on like Sheldon Richardson or something. Yes, there's other guys in free agency that we can go get. Jarvis Landry would be the only one I would be okay with going and getting when it comes to weapons. Unless I don't want to luck up and get Le'Veon Bell, because in my opinion, he's not very durable. I mean, he's missed a lot of games the last couple of years. Just saying, he has. I'm not nothing against the guy. He's a good player. He's probably the best running back in the league. But he has missed a good bit of games in the last couple of years. So, with that being said, I don't really want to go get him. There's no other running back I want to go get. The only player I would be interested in getting is Jarvis Landry, because I think he's solid. He stays healthy. And I mean, he had a good year last year, and he had Jay Cutler throwing him the football. Okay? So that's the only thing I would say if I had to pick for us to go get in free agency, receiver wise, I'm okay with Landry. I do not want Sammy Watkins. Okay? I don't want him. Everyone's like, oh, what's good? Don't want Sammy Watkins. Nothing against the guy. He's a good guy. But I do not want him on the team. He's too injury prone. Yeah, he's a burner, but he's not physical. And I just don't think he can physically play to the level we need him to play. Okay? If we got Jarvis Landry, I'm okay letting go of Quick and Harris. And that leaves us with Jarvis Landry. If we did all the stuff I said, Jarvis Landry, Crowder, Grant, Dotson, and Emmanuel Sanders at receiver. That's a pretty solid receiving core, if I do say so myself. And then with the draft, and I keep seeing these things. This is what actually got me thinking about it, was I saw an article on ESPN, or on NFL Network, and it said what the Redskins should project that we should draft. I wonder, do they just think that the Redskins are just stupid? I mean, maybe they do, and I'm just clarifying that. But it just seems like they think we're really stupid. And what I mean by that is they have us drafting a receiver first round. We don't need to draft receivers. All of our receivers on our team right now, for the most part, we've drafted, except for like Vernon Davis. Okay? Crowder, Grant, Dotson, Harris, Reed. Okay? All of them we've drafted. Okay? All the star ones we have. We don't need any more receivers. We've drafted plenty of receivers. We just need to make sure we predicate our scheme around that. Okay? And I'll get to that a little bit later. Okay? Now, that being said, I think we need to go get Vita Vea. Okay? There's another channel called Redskins Review. He talked about it. And I actually agree with him on a couple things. I don't hate Bruce Allen. But he does seem to make some dumb decisions. Okay? And I don't think he needs to be fired, per se, but I do think he needs to be held accountable for what he's fucked up with. And I agree with this guy go watch his video. I encourage you to go watch his video. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of things he says, but, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and bash him. He is a Redskin fan, but I don't agree with everything he says, but a lot of things he says I do agree with. For example, I do think a lot of us Redskin YouTube channels can probably be a better GM for the Redskins than Bruce Allen. I've just given a bunch of solutions to a lot of problems right here. Okay? So, first thing, we don't need to draft a receiver. It's not a sexy pick. I get it if we draft a defensive lineman, but we need a defensive lineman. We have not drafted a solid defensive lineman like to plug up a running game in a long time. So we need that. Okay? That's the first round pick. Second round pick, I say go for offensive guard. Okay? You can never have enough offensive linemen. You can always trade them. You can always cut them if they're good, but you need to go get another offensive guard. We do not need much else when it comes to our team. We're pretty set on the defense other than the defensive line, which is why I say go get Vita Vea. Okay? We're pretty set at secondary for the most part. Assuming Sanua Cravens comes back and he balls, he's another safety. Okay? And all we need to do is make sure our corners show up and play. But if we can get to the quarterback, that's the biggest thing I'm concerned about. We won't need to have to worry too much about having great corners. Okay? And the fact that teams could be so balanced against us, run pass, it really hindered our defense to actually, our ability to actually play defense. When we played against the Raiders last year, that's the one game where our defense looked the best. When we played against the Raiders, we made so they were not balanced. Okay, they had no running game. And they had no passing game, so they had no balance. It was very predictable. Our receivers, our secondary is very aggressive. Our defensive line was very aggressive. They got after it. That's what we need out of our team to be successful. And if we are able to stop the run and turn the other team one-dimensional, that will make us successful. We've been wanting to do that for years. Okay? And I keep saying this is why we went out and got Josh Norman. This is why we've been drafting the way we've been drafting. The goal is that our GM, not so much Bruce Allen, but the guy before him, Scott, whatever his name is, his goal was that, okay, we have Kirk and all these offensive weapons. Our goal is to outscore our opponent. Our goal is to score so much on our opponent that the other team has to just go into full-on passing mode. And they can't run, and we can just bull rush the quarterback, drop into a zone up, and hopefully we get to him and sack the quarterback first. That is what has been our defensive strategy. I swear to you, that's what our strategy was. That's what we've been drafting by what our defense has been drafting by, based on personnel and going and getting Josh Norman. Okay, that is what our strategy was. And since our offense has not been able to produce the way we've wanted to, when I say produce, yay, clap, clap, good for Kirk Cousins. He had over 4,000 passing yards. That is not what I'm talking about by producing. Okay? I'm talking about putting the ball in the end zone and putting points on the board. The last few years, maybe not so much this year, because I'll concede he was losing weapons. He did lose 2 weapons. Okay? He did lose a couple weapons. I'll concede that. But 2 years before that, we should have been averaging about 30 points a game. Okay? And when you're putting up 30 points a game, the other team's not going to be able to run the ball consistently on you. Okay? And that's been one of our flaws in our team, because we have not been able to put up the points necessary to make the other team unbalanced offensively to match our scoring. Okay? That's my personal opinion. You don't have to believe me. So that's what I believe. And I think scheme-wise, if we don't get any big receivers like Jarvis Landry, which, he's a big receiver, so it'd be nice if we got him, but if we don't, no big deal. We need to play our tight ends more in a mismatching way where we can put them out on the wing and have a corner covering a tight end and have, linebackers covering our slots like Crowder and Grant, so on and so forth. Okay? So back to the draft. Vita Vea. Big run-stopping defensive tackle. Second round, I really think we should go get an offensive guard. A second round offensive lineman is a bona fide starter, if not the first guy off the bench when it comes to one getting injured. Okay, so that needs to be an option we have as well. And then the third round, they said we should get a quarterback, which, I'm not opposed to it. But third round, I think we should probably get maybe... It depends on if a running back's available. Like, for example, it shows on there that Chubb from Georgia's available. If he's available, we need to take him. Okay? Him and Pirine would be a fantastic 1-2 punch. That would shore up our defense, our running game for sure. Okay? If we do the things that I've said we need to do for the offensive line, then our offensive line is going to be fine. And we're going to have a decent running game as well. So, I mean, I don't know where we lose in this, okay? Offensive line gets better. Receiving core gets better. Tight ends get better and healthier, okay? We're just giving, we're giving Alex Smith more weapons. Our defense, if we get a defensive tackle that can stop the run, our defense will get better because the other team won't be able to be as balanced as they've been the last few years, okay? So let me know what you think. Let me know if you guys think we should get anyone else. I didn't look into specifically what offensive guard we need to get. Anyone that would be a first-round caliber or second-round caliber, I'm okay with. But I just think we need to get more offensive guards, more offensive linemen. That way we're not drafting undrafted or signing undrafted rookies midway through the season because we got guys injured. Okay? We need to have guys that are developed that can just come right off the bench, step in, and fill a void. Okay? And I don't know. The third pick is really up in the air because we can go any route with that. They said quarterback. We could technically go quarterback and just draft the quarterback for the future. Let him sit behind Alex Smith for 3 years, 3 or 4 years, whatever case may be. So it really just depends on what you view of what our team needs to do. I think we should get quarterback like 5th or 6th round. This is where we need to evaluate talent a little bit better. Just get one 5th or 6th round, and that's where I believe that we need to be drafting our defensive players, or our quarterback. I'm sorry. And just draft skills. I think skills players late is better than skills players early, because not saying skills players early are busts, but skills players late, you always have to be skillful. You always have to run. You always have to run routes. So no matter if you're a Division II or you're Division III, or you played for Vanderbilt or you played for Alabama, you still have to do this. This is like in basketball. If you play basketball and you're a guard, you always have to handle the ball with pressure. That's why if you're a guard that played Division III, you can translate to the NBA better than a center that played Division III, because the athleticism of centers in Division III is nowhere near the athleticism of centers in Division I. Okay? So it's still a skill that translates no matter where you go. Because even if you're a ball handler in Division III, you still got to get pressured. Okay? And you just got to adapt to the athleticism in which the pressure you're dealing with. Okay? I think skills position late are better than like linemen and stuff late, usually. Okay? And just because it's just the way the game is played. All right? That is my video. Hopefully, if you guys have any advice or anything you think we should do, go ahead and write it in there. Just comment on it. Like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate. I've got a lot of people to actually follow my video. I really appreciate people watching. And again, it's gotten almost over 700 views in like less than 2 weeks, which is really nice. Okay? Appreciate everyone. Have a good day. Hail to the Redskins. See ya.